Hey everyone, welcome back to Sisters for Financial Independence. My name is Catherine Agupjan, and here at the Sisters for Fi channel, we help you manage your money better so that you can live a life of impact today and tomorrow. The book today that I will talk about will allow you to do that or help you understand what that means to live a life of impact today and tomorrow. So the book we're going to cover today for this summary and review is called Die with Zero: Getting All You Can from Your Money and Your Life by Bill Perkins. I found this book at the library for free. Great place to get your books for free, as well as reduce the clutter in your home. And the concept of this book is all about using your money wisely. It is a personal finance book, but it doesn't cover your usual budgeting, investing, saving topics. It is instead talking about the life energy you're putting towards earning money and how you use that money. And the Die with Zero is actually all about the concept to spend your money wisely so that by the time you pass away, you end up with zero because you have spent that money wisely early on or have distributed it to people that need it when they need it the most. I will talk about 4 big points from the book. The book is split up into 9 chapters for varying principles and values, but I will summarize them into 4 large points so you get the idea of what this book is about. Now, this book resonated with me on a different level because when I was reading it, my grandfather actually died earlier this month, and he died at the age of 100 years old. Now, when you think about that, he lived a century, and there's a big fear that for many adults, they will go into retirement in poverty. They will not have enough to retire, and that is certainly a valid condition for many folks. But I would also encourage you, since you're on this channel, you are learning more about money, more than likely, many of us will die with enough in the bank to leave to others or help others with that leftover money. So we need to really be mindful of how we spend our money today so that it can reap us not only rewards down the line to pay for our future expenses, but to provide us a fulfilling life. And another level that this resonated with me was that earlier in my 20s, when I was out of college, making my own money in corporate America, I had a lot of conflict with my mom because we had different ideas of how to spend money. And I wanted to spend my money. I felt like I didn't want to die and have money left over because I can't take it with me, right? Now, my mother, on the other hand, was a very big influence in how I spend money and use money and invest money, was also under the guise that, hey, you really need to save. And I think we're both right in the scenario of really finding that balance with the money you earn today to save for the future, but also spend it in a way that fulfills you. And many of us run on autopilot, right? Kind of doing what society's telling us, what perhaps our parents are telling us, and we're just on autopilot, perhaps spending money where we don't feel joy in. We're accumulating debt, we're accumulating stuff for our house that's just all clutter, and it doesn't lead to fulfillment. So the book talks about spending in a way that's conscious and intentional so that you can live the life that you want and be intentional with your money and the energy that you're putting out into the world. Let's break down some of the concepts in this book, and hopefully if it's a book you want to pick up, I encourage you to grab it from your library, or tell your library to buy it so that other people can also read it. Point number 1 from the book is all about optimizing your life for experiences. So invest in experiences. And a big factor is because we are all exchanging our life energy for money. But at some point we will find a point where we will have enough. So we need to be intentional with any of the money we have left over to spend that on things that bring us joy and provide us fulfillment, not only today, but in the later years. If the concept of life energy and money is new to you, I would encourage you to read the book Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robbins, which provides an exercise that allows you to calculate your life energy against money. And it's a great way to kind of just look at how are you exchanging your time for money. I also have a review on it, and I will share that in the cards if you're interested in taking a look at that. The author encourages us to start investing in experiences early on. The idea is to get a bit smarter about how we spend our money. And this may be contrary to the mainstream advice of save, 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 but really it's beneficial to sacrifice saving early on and instead spend that money on experiences. A big reason to do this is because as the years progress, the balance of health, money, and free time will start to shift. So, depending on where you are in your life right now, it's important to invest in experiences that provide the right fulfillment for you. And if you aren't sure what will provide you fulfillment, there is an exercise that the author recommends, which I will cover as point 4 in this video. The author emphasizes a good amount on the health and wealth factors of life. Now, health and wealth have different curve lines, with health declining over time and wealth rising over time. So at some point, we all need to find the optimal age to do what we want given money, time, and health. In the book, the author covers the concept of a memory dividend, and it's very similar to the dividend concept in investing. But in this case, it's all about how experiences and memories provide us dividends or rewards over time. As we recollect these experiences, it can bring about joy, it can reconnect us with people, and it can bring about pockets of happiness that can add up for us. And it's a powerful way to continuously reap the experiences, the benefits of an experience that's past. So let's think about that for a little bit. When you experience something on year 1 and it's a great experience, you might talk about it in year 2. You might find that like this was I'm so glad I did this. But as the years go on, you think about it, you remember that memory, it starts adding up. And perhaps 10 years, 20 years from down the line, you think about that memory, it adds on to your memory dividend bank. So it brings you fulfillment, and it might be ultimately bring you more fulfillment, especially if you, at that point in time, you're unable to do that experience due to declining health. The author also covers a concept called memory streams, and it's all about who else is with you in that experience and who else is creating their own memory stream from that experience. So an example might be if you're a parent. Many of us parents want to create memories for our children. We want to make sure that they're having those experiences, but at the same time, you are creating a memory for yourself, and your child is creating a memory of that experience. So when you're creating an experience, it's not just a one-way stream, it's multiple streams based on the people that are with you in that experience. And doing so means that the memory dividends adds up not only for you, but for them as well. So it's a great concept to kind of understand why experiences matter most and why spending money in experiences might be the way to go to find fulfillment, not only for yourself, but for those around you as well. The next point that I will share from the book is all about kids and charity. A big question that the author answers in the book is that what about the kids? If I die with zero, my kids will get nothing. The author responds back that they don't have to get zero. What you want to be doing is planning ahead so that you are giving money at the optimal time. And he cites that most US inheritance are received at a suboptimal time, at a time when the recipient no longer needs the money or has no use for it. So by the time they get it, they might have their own wealth and it just becomes extra in their pocket. So what you want to do instead is understand when is the peak utility of money. At what point, what age is the best age to share the money that you've earned and give that to the people that can use it. And so based on the data, he says that that's between 25 to 45 years old when people can really use the inheritance money to build their own life. And he also talks about charity too. While we see lots of headlines about people saving so much and being able to donate millions of dollars as a lump sum, sometimes it might be more beneficial to actually give a little less early on, because even a small amount can change the trajectory of someone's future. So while you might not be able to give $2 million early on, perhaps giving $10,000 can really benefit someone today. And it's also important to consider that when you talk about inheritances, sometimes it becomes a very random thing. The money that you end up leaving can be a random amount based on what you have left over. It can be given to random people because you don't know who might be around to benefit from your wealth, and it can be at a random time at when you pass. So what you want to do is remove the randomness of when you leave money and be intentional about giving out your wealth, so that it's part of your decumulation process and you're giving it to people that can use it at the time that they need it. The third point I will address from the book is all about how do I make sure I actually have enough to live off as I age and not die with negative amount. And the author provides a specific formula for this. You have to take this formula with a grain of salt, of course, because all situations are different, but he calls it the survival threshold. And the survival threshold is based on how much money you'll need to save at bare minimum to be able to start withdrawing without needing more money until you die. It's very similar to the FIRE number, but takes into account your likelihood of living past a certain age. And for that likelihood, you'll need to visit your doctor to get a reading on your biological age and look at your family history. Now, here is the formula for the survival threshold. It's 0.7 times the cost to live 1 year times years left to live. So you'll need to know your annual expenses and perhaps determine, and this will be a guess, of the years you have left. For many people, most expenses will likely decline over time, with the exception of healthcare in the United States. So it is possible to estimate a lower cost of living. I think it's also important to remember that there are other financial products that you can also purchase to help you reduce the risk of not having enough. And there's certainly a combination of insurance, annuities, and other investments that you can tap into to protect yourself and your future. And of course, if your mind and body are still willing, you can continue to work so you aren't drawing down on your net worth. There's certainly statistics that you'll see in the headlines about retirees not having enough to live off of. And unfortunately, this is the case, and this is a reality for many people. If you are pursuing financial independence, there's also a case that you most likely will have enough to live off of. And what you want to do is really start understanding how can you use your money today so that you can live the life that you want, have enough for when you grow older, and be able to share your wealth along the way. Now, as you do get older, what you'll start want to look at is your net worth and how, at what point can you start decumulating without risking not having enough when you are in your 80s or 90s. Once you know a little bit of your survival threshold and you know that net worth peak, it'll be time to start decumulating. So it's time to spend your money. And because you know potentially what this number is, you may be able to attach a date to it or an age at which you can start spending money or giving it away to those who really need it instead of continuing to hoard it. So in a scenario like this, you might realize that you are at a peak of your net worth in your 50s or 60s, and instead of having that net worth peak closer to your death, you start decumulating so that you are on track to die with zero. The last point from the book is all about the time bucket exercise. And this time bucket exercise answers the question of like, what if I don't know what kind of fulfilling experiences I want to invest in? And a way for you to do this is to start putting your top items that you want to do into time buckets. Now, many of us are very familiar with our bucket lists or have one or know of people who have one. And the bucket list should not be something that you do when you're older, when you're retired. It should be something that you hold on to and you start early on. And what you want to do with your bucket list is start putting those things in a timeline. So what you might want to do is start bucketing those items on periods of either age or years so that you can start planning on how to spend your money on experiences, on things that you want to do out of life. So what will this look like? So basically you can probably just create a Google Sheet or Excel for this, but the book does provide an app that can allow you to create these time buckets. If you have a bucket list already, I encourage you to move them into time periods so there's a sense of urgency with them. I also encourage you to write down some of your past activities in a separate tracking sheet so that you can build up your memory bank for those memory dividends. Here's what the time buckets will look like. Basically, you will most likely partition your years into periods of time, maybe 5 years. So in this example, we have 25 to 30 years old, and you've already put in experiences for volunteering, hiking Machu Picchu, traveling to Western Europe, or starting a business. And some of these things you might find that, like, actually, I want to move some of these things later on in life, or I want to move them earlier. And at least having a time frame creates urgency, and it allows you to focus some of your goals and money on these particular experiences and goals for yourself. And again, we talked about earlier about that time, health, and money are really big factors for this. So understanding where you are right now will absolutely influence what kinds of things you can do, the experiences you can take on early on or later in life so that you get the most out of it. So here are my final thoughts in the book. I did like the book. I believe that the philosophy that it talks about is good for many of us to understand. And I think many of us need to create our own philosophy of how we spend our money. In the personal finance space, we don't talk about that enough. It's always about budgeting, saving, investing. But we are humans. We need to create lives that are fulfilling, that are joyful, that are fun with the people that we love, and money can be is a great way to do that, right? Money helps us do that. So, if you read the book, I would encourage you to create your own philosophy of how you can spend your money while at the same time investing, and how you can plan ahead and be intentional with your wealth. Now, there's certainly a privilege to be able to decumulate wealth and be able to spend down while having enough to live off in the future. And I think that for many of us, though, especially those of us pursuing fire or just on the journey to financial independence, there's a high likelihood that many of us will have enough to live off of, have enough to spend on the extras. So we now have to think about how can we use some of that enough to really build the life that we want. I do appreciate you watching and learning more about this book. If this has been helpful or want to see more reviews like this, let me know. Give this video a like. And if you've read the book, let me know what concepts resonated with you in the comments below. So I will see you next week when a new video drops for Sisters for Fi, where we help you manage your money better so that you can live a life of impact today and tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.